One common feature with technical documentation, online help and help for applications, and the work done by technical authors is a concept of content reuse or single sourcing. The ability to have one bit of information and use it in different places, and to publish content across different media and publish them in different ways. And that's common within user documentation, but it isn't very common within other types of business content. And that's partly because it's tricky to understand and tricky to explain to people. So what I want to do is see if I can explain it in the context of policies and procedures and how it could be used in that particular setting. So for a lot of organisations, they write policies and they write procedures and they publish them as printed material using Word, or they publish them as PDFs, or one page on an intranet, one long HTML page. And typically a policy or a procedure will look something like this. This is one for using company mobile phones. So you'll have a whole set of different topics in it. You'll have a document control section to provide information on who approved the policy, when it was approved, when it was last checked, who it affects. And the sort of work that we will do in taking policies and procedures and improving them for organisations, or teaching people how to write policies and procedures in better ways so they're clearer and easier to find. The way that we'll do that is often focusing on converting the information or writing in a way that you have self-contained chunks of information. That means that when you have a section about why you need a policy on mobile phones, you have information that explains why you need it, and the only information that goes into that section on why you need it is that related information. If you talk about something different, it goes into a different section. If you have an anti-discriminatory practice, a policy that you don't discriminate based on age or religion or gender, you have a section and you only talk about that. And so you have these blocks of information, roles and responsibilities, which only talks about the different people or different roles and what they're responsible for, what's in and outside of scope of the policy, and so on. Now, a downside of this approach is you've got one document for every audience. And often with policies and procedures, you have different audiences. You've got the top senior management that want to check that there are rules and checks and balances in place. You've got regulators or auditors that want to check that it conforms to certain standards, or again, that there are mechanisms to check that people conform. And then you've got the staff themselves who really want to know, for example, if we're talking about an email, I want to take this file on my USB stick, I want to send this file to somebody, how do I do it in an appropriate way? So let me show you how this can be done in the way of single sourcing. And I'll show you a number of outputs from different tools, and there are different tools out there that you can use. Some are cloud-based, some are Windows-based applications, some are running on your intranet server base that run with Apache servers. There's different ways that it can be done. So we have these chunks of information that we've written to in our document, and if we move it to online to these tools, what we can do is we can break those chunks of information into self-contained blocks of text. So we have a big bucket of content, all the different information. And in this example, we've got topics relating to two policies, a policy on portable media and a policy on how to send email. And these are based on some policies for an NHS trust. And so we have these self-contained chunks of information, and we only talk about that one thing in them. So when it comes to writing an email policy, what we can do with these tools is we can pick the topics that we want in our email policy, and we can drag them across into the document that we want to create. So some of these tools call them collections. Some of these tools call them tables of contents, others call them books. There's different terminology. So we pick the different topics that we want in our document, and we can hit publish. And what can be created then is an online document with all of the policies and procedures, in this case published as a web page. We talked about the anti-discriminatory practice and the fact that that appears in more than one document. In this situation, what we're doing is we're dragging our topic of the anti-discriminatory practice into our email policy, and we can drag exactly the same topic into our portable media policy. And what this means is we can write our anti-discriminatory practice in one place, and if we make a change here, then depending on which tool you're using, and we save it, in some of the tools that change will automatically ripple through to all of the documents, all of the policies and procedures that are using that particular piece of information. In some of the other tools there's an extra step where you have to publish, republish to make that appear. There's pros and cons for doing that around approval processes as to whether you'd want to do that or not, but that's the idea. When it comes to the procedures that people do in their day-to-day job, they don't want all of the different policy manuals or pages open at the same time relating to portable media, relating to email. They want one single set of instructions that tell them what to do. By having this idea of reusable chunks of information that you can apply, you can create different views into the information. So you can still have your policy for the auditors, for senior management with all of the document control information. You also have the ability to create specific guides relevant to different roles within the organisation. So we can take our email policy and we can take our portable media policy, and when we're writing a procedure on how to send an email, we can include in our procedure the basic email policy, the basic managing portable media policy, and then provide links out to more detailed information. So when they're sending an email, you can make people aware of your antivirus policy, your portable media policy, your email policy, provide that within your particular procedures without just having a simple link or replicating information, having people having to go and look at all these different bits of information. So what we've done to write this how to send an email procedure is we've included the basic policy for the email and the portable media when we've created this procedure, this guide for somebody. So we can provide other ways of navigating into information, different routes in. So we can create a flowchart from beginning to end of a process that people can see, that see the big picture, and then they can click and then they can get to specific detail on things. In this case, this is a guide to managing a project. And if we want to go more sophisticated, there are tools by which we can mark up sections of text. So we can mark up this text for what happens pre-Brexit, and we can mark up text what happens to something post-Brexit in our authoring tool. And then we can provide different ways of information appearing or not appearing depending on different criteria. This can be different conditions, it might be different offices, different locations where information differs between different locations, different countries, or by different roles, what you're entitled to in terms of benefits depending on your job seniority, job level. That's another way that this can be used. And here's another tool where we've got a mobile phone policy as we had before, but we can also provide another set of navigation routes by different job roles. So the line manager may not need to make a claim for mobile phones, but some people may be coming to them asking for approval for different things, or going to the finance department to pay for personal calls. So they need to be aware that what policies and procedures involve them, that affect them. So in this case, whoever's paying for a private call, they contact the finance department. So this idea of breaking our content into different chunks of information, reusable blocks, and then dragging them in to different publications, collections, so we can provide different views in based on different audiences, that we can reuse content. It's a very powerful way that technical authors use with content for help within a wider context. For policies and procedures in particular, it can also be very effective in ensuring a company has consistent approaches and can personalise or orientate information for different audiences rather than having this one document for all the different audiences. If you'd like more information on some of the tools that I've been showing or how it can be done, contact us. You can contact us by email, info@cherryleaf.com.